Welcome to the Friction to Freedom podcast, where the mission is to support you as you tap into the best and highest expression of yourself. My name is Janet D. Thomas, and I appreciate you checking out this episode. Thank you very much for joining me. This podcast focuses around the idea that internal shifts can lead to external success. And in my own lived experience, I found that when I stopped looking for validation and success and acknowledgement on the outside, when I cultivated it within myself, my external reality reflected my internal shifts, and I was able to manifest what I wanted more of in my life. And this is about those internal shifts that can lead to external success. I focus this podcast on two ideas to support this idea of internal shifts leading to external success. Those two ideas have to do with neuroscience combined with self-discovery tools. And I'm very, very excited to share this particular bit of information with you today. Now, last episode, I shared with you a very specific self-discovery tool that I used in my own healing journey. And it has to do with decoding our life's experiences. But it really has to do with, instead of thinking about the idea of decoding them, they're kind of breadcrumbs that can lead to clarity along the way that can be absolutely life-changing. So here's what happened in my case. I was really under the thumb of a terrible inner critic that beat me up all the time for decades. And at the same time, though, I saw my future self, that idea of myself that I really wanted to align with, that I really wanted to be and feel. And it had to do with self-confidence, clarity on purpose, things like that. I saw my future self in front of me as if it was on a bridge. I just didn't know how to cross that bridge to get to her. I just didn't know how to do it. And through desperation and learning new ideas, learning to embrace new ideas is what helped me cross that bridge. Now, before my breaking through happened, where I started being able to take the steps to meet that imagined future self that I had in my mind and in my heart, my lived experience felt like I was holding my breath for decades. It's like I had a freeze response and I was dissociated. I had a lack of clarity on my own direction. I was doing people pleasing to get the love and the acknowledgement that I really felt that I needed. But I had a lot of self-loathing and self-sabotaging behavior. And I was overweight for protection. And this is no judgment. These are just facts and just describing the events. Now, this is what I call neutralization. I've shared the tool of neutralization in another episode. And today's self-discovery tool is as important and can be as impactful as neutralization that I want to share with you today. Think about this tool plus neutralization as the 1-2 punch when it comes to internal shifts that can lead to external success. And this particular tool today, that is one of those breadcrumbs that you can use in order to break through certain internal negative issues that you may have going on into certain freedoms that you're looking to achieve. This tool today has to do with your emotional body, the emotions. It can feel like a tricky word sometimes, but I want to demystify the idea of emotions and how utilizing your emotions safely with harm to none can actually help you break through into being able to have the external success that you desire. Now, consider emotions energy in motion. When you feel something inside, when the body feels something, and you give it motion, safely with harm to none, including yourself. That has to do with emotions. Now, I'm particularly talking about the challenging emotions like anger or sorrow, sadness, those types of emotions. So, in order to help you maybe get a different perspective on them, think of them in this way. Think of them as energy in motion. And also, what I learned from my own ability to process my emotions, which, by the way, I could not do for decades properly or effectively because I didn't feel like I had the right to a voice. And expressing emotion was not really looked upon as something that was favorable to do. So, what you might be able to learn from this today is that the challenging emotions, or any emotion in that, for that matter, has a predictable cycle. It's like an ocean wave that comes, it builds, it crashes to the shore, and then it retreats. Think about the ocean. It never stays stuck. These ocean waves just come one after another, and they always resolve themselves. There's a predictable, there's a predictable cycle, and they always resolve themselves. Your emotions have the same properties, okay? So the invitation is actually to embrace the idea of your uncomfortable emotions. When you embrace them, when a wave comes and you ride it out safely, giving it a safe voice with harm to none, including yourself, that's when you can start resolving what may have been held in, what you may have been holding on to in your body for a long time. So let me give you an example. Take this sponge, for example. Let's say that this represents your body, okay? And this glass of water represents your non-preferred experiences, those situations or experiences that compromise your physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual well-being, okay? So let's say that you have these situations in your life. As an example, your parents might divorce, a non-preferred experience. Someone harms you physically or emotionally or sexually or mentally. Add those on as non-preferred experiences. The body absorbs these things. Let's say that there's drug addiction in your family, or you witness violence. These are all non-preferred experiences that can build up in the body. And when they build up in the body, what happens? The body can get heavier and weighed down by these non-preferred experiences. And when you safely release these non-preferred experiences from the body, when you let them out safely, what happens? The body gets lighter. It clears out of the way in the body. Now, here's an example, or if you actually just want to observe a 3-year-old in action. If you observe a toddler, what you might see is that a toddler will cycle through different emotions very, very quickly, from anger to frustration to being happy, joyful, having some tears. Like if a baby falls down and they hurt themselves and they may cry for a while, they release it in a minute or two, and then they go right back to playing because they're not holding it in. They're letting it flow naturally. When we let it flow naturally, it gets to resolve itself naturally, and you go back to quote unquote normal. Now, emotions, energy and motion, especially tears, can be met with anger. In our society, a lot of times we say, and especially to our boys, don't cry. You know, Vulnerability is a no-no because we have to protect ourselves. And if we're vulnerable, people can take advantage of us. So a lot of times people can say, don't cry, be strong. And as authority figures, We can squash someone else's safe emotional expression because we may not have learned how to express our own safely. So we could be met with, like, we can be afraid of our own emotions. And also, we might deny our emotions. Think about it this way, though. You may have been taught that your emotions are unsafe, that it's harmful to express them. But when you are alone with nobody else except yourself, even your own critic can't stop you from relaxing to allow yourself to safely express that emotion. Because when something impacts us and we don't allow it a safe voice, our bodies hold on to that and they can start to wreak havoc in the body. Now, looking back at it, when I reached the point where my I could no longer hold in what had been bothering me for decades. I could no longer put on a brave face because my life was starting to really break down. I wasn't able to sustain living in a certain way because the sadness and the grief that I had inside, I could no longer contain. And I used to think that expressing emotion would be the kiss of death. So I didn't do it until my world came crashing down and I had no choice but to start doing it. And what I learned looking back at it, when I started to purge, when I started to safely release all that bracing of myself and all of that shock and that grief and betrayal that I'd held on to all those years to put on that brave face, when I started to safely release it from my body with harm to none, including myself, clarity started to show up. What I understood was that breaking down and then breaking through gives the opportunity for clarity to show up. The breaking down is an opportunity to release and purge non preferred experiences that have been housed in the body for so long. And what I learned to find out after a lot of purging, a lot of riding those waves, I discovered that my clarity was underneath the emotion. I just needed to get the courage to face those uncomfortable emotions. And when I did, and I realized that I wasn't going to die because I felt this deep sadness, but I expressed it safely from my body, I actually started to get clarity. And I started to release myself naturally from the freeze response, from the dissociation with myself, from protecting myself with extra weight. I allowed myself to naturally reconnect to my own authenticity through the tears, through the sadness, as a result of safely expressing my own heartbreak. The clarity was underneath the emotion. I invite you to consider that, again, your emotions have a predictable cycle, and when expressed safely with harm to none, including yourself, your clarity gets to show up because it's embedded in there, inside of your body, underneath that which you have not expressed based upon your old non-preferred experiences. Now, I want to give you another case for the idea of safely expressing emotion, and that has to do with your nervous system. When you have, and this has to do with your breathing and your breath. Think about inhaling and exhaling as serving two different functions. When you are inhaling, your heart rate increases. Think of this as putting your foot on the gas pedal if you're in a car. When you are inhaling, That's when your heart rate increases and you're ready to rock and roll with something with your body. When you are exhaling, it's as if you're putting your foot on the brake pedal in a car. So you start slowing down and the body starts relaxing when your exhales are longer than your inhales. So when your exhales are longer than your inhales, that's when the body starts relaxing. And this is connected to the idea of heart rate variability, faster heartbeats, slower heartbeats. The exhales are associated with slower heartbeats. And when I heard that information, that's neuroscience, nervous system information. When I first heard that information where exhales help relax the body even further and it helps slowing down the heart rate, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's laughing and crying. Think about it. When you're laughing and your exhales are longer than your inhales, that helps relax the body. And think about a toddler who's crying. If you watch them and they're like, they have a longer exhale, that is actually relaxing the body and allowing the body to safely express itself and purge whatever trauma may be in the body. So laughing and crying are wonderful ways to exhale and to breathe. So I invite you to consider giving yourself permission to safely express and release your emotion with harm to none, including yourself. And that's when your own clarity can emerge. Now, by using the tools of neutralization, calling things what they are, just the facts, without any spin on them, but just describing the events without judgment, and then allowing your body to relax and exhale by safely releasing emotion, which can come in the form of tears. Tears are very, very healthy for the body. That 1-2 punch, neutralization and safely releasing emotion, will help you shift internally in ways that you may not have ever imagined, that will connect you to the external successes that you desire. If you have any questions or comments or things that you want to share with me, feel free to contact me through social media at Janet D. Thomas and also through my website at janetdthomas.com. And I look forward to hearing your own success stories when it comes to the idea of internal shifts leading to external success. Thank you so much for joining me today. And next week, we're going to give that next breadcrumb when it comes to a tool that you can use to help decipher your non-preferred experiences so that you can live the life that you want to live. Take good care and be kind to yourself. Bye-bye.